Hi, and welcome back to ScottiesTech.Info. I'm Scottie with my co-hosts,
Hey.
plural. My co-hosts, Cletus, the Tribble, as usual. And also, since this is Tech Talk with Scottie and Toño, we have my tech bro, Toño.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome, Toño.
Hey, well, thank you.
So, the story here is that Toño and I have been tech bros for a long time, and like every time we get together, which is unfortunately rarely, but when we do, we start talking. And last time, my wife says to me, you guys should do a show together, because when you're both talking, like, you have this really good energy and blah blah blah. So I think it took like 2 years after she made that suggestion, but right, here we are.
Better late than never.
So, and I guess regular viewers, you know me, but Toño, you're what, like coder, manager?
Yeah, exactly that. Programmer and manager now. But I mean, I've been doing this for a while, over 20 plus years now. But usually just a tech enthusiast. I see your videos and, they are great. And overall, just very much interested in technology, and now with the rise of AI, I mean, it kind of fits the bill that we should be talking about that, because it's moving everything all so fast, and it kind of feels overwhelming, but at the same time, something needs to be said about all of this.
Yeah. So the topic for today's show is 2026 the year of agentic AI? Now, most people, here, I got a slide here. Most people say, what the heck is agentic AI? So, and dive in here, Toño, whenever you feel like it.
Yeah.
This is Jensen Huang, NVIDIA CEO, and he had this pretty little chart not so long ago. And at the beginning, you have perception AI, things like speech recognition and medical imaging. Then you move to sort of the current era of AI, which is generative AI, which they wrote there, digital marketing and content creation. That's kind of like, it's like the chatbots, the large language models. It's AI or AI image generation, video generation, that sort of thing. It's AI that you use to generate content, more or less. And then now, supposedly, we're in the era of agentic AI, things like coding assistance, customer service, patient care, and eventually we'll get to physical AI, self-driving cars, and general robotics.
Yeah.
So, right. One of the things that I think, because like sometimes people say, right, but if I have a laptop and my laptop breaks and I go to the manufacturer's website, then I get that little AI chatbot in the corner, and you click and you type and you go like, oh, so that's agentic AI. No, that's actually, well, technically I suppose it is, but they have names for the different levels, and that's like barely agentic AI, because it can only do one thing. It can only ask you a sequence of questions based on its limited data set, and then it can either connect you with a real human customer service representative, or it's giving you the answer, and like that's it. That's all it can do.
Yeah.
But with agentic AI, we have stuff like what, like I take my phone here, my Galaxy S25, that was supposed to have agentic AI last year, but it doesn't. The marketing video for it was like, oh, it does everything. It's supposed to take my phone, and I'm going to be like, Bixby, book me an appointment for, dinner for 2 at some Italian restaurant. Here's the price range and not too far away, and they have to have good lasagna. Go. And the AI agent, it's not just going to do like a Google search and process text. It's actually going to like make phone calls and search Google Maps and gather data and send text messages to people. It's going to do what I would have done if I wanted to find a place to have Italian food. do that in my place. And when it gets to the point where, okay, I'm going to book the table, my phone beeps or something, or my computer beeps, and it goes, Scottie, I found you this restaurant, blah blah blah, and there you go. Uh, Also, stuff like coding. I think you've done some. I confess I have not used AI to do any coding because I've resisted it like it's the plague.
To be quite honest, I have also, but that's just me. I'm, old school in that way, I guess. At the same time, I do use it for some productivity, summarizing meeting transcripts or something like that.
Yeah,
An LLM, just a chatbot. You have just you are in command, let's call it, and you just ask questions or a command to the prompt, and then you will receive an answer, and then you use that answer for something, but you have to do it. Agentic AI is no, it's not only just sending a command, is go and do stuff. Now, going back to your very interesting introduction about what is agentic AI, I mean, not too long ago, we had these chatbots on, I don't know, WhatsApp or whatever, and they will just pick up certain keywords and try to guess what you were referring to. They will just present you with a list of things that you could do, or book an appointment or something like that, or call a sales representative. And then you will type in option number one, and then they will have very rigid sort of decision trees. That's not agentic AI. That's not even a cool bot, even. Right? It's just like a hassle in a way.
yeah,
And then we move on to having an actual LLM, which is, a sort of a reasoning model which understands the context of the conversation you're having. Oh, you want to, you can type in whatever, meaning that you can use any word to refer to you wanting to, talk with a sales representative or something, and then he will take some, oh, I understand what you're referring to. Here is the phone number or whatever. But again, it's just a response from the bot, and you don't really, you still have to do the work, right? So agentic
yeah,
AI is just the next phase, as Jensen Wang was referring Barry on that slide.
yeah. So probably most of you remember back in 2024, possibly earlier, Microsoft was telling us Windows 11 will have agentic AI. It's going to be awesome. Samsung was telling us their smartphones will have agentic AI. Everybody was like, it's all, 2025 is the year of agentic AI for sure. And of course, 2025 came and went, and right, we didn't get very much agentic AI, did we? And so now they're saying 2026 is the year of agentic AI.
Yeah.
And there are a few rumblings that maybe we're getting a little bit closer. But I guess the first question is like asking the viewer, like, so how much agentic AI have you used recently? Because I haven't encountered very much.
No, I think I believe that this year will be very, very different in that regard compared to 2025. Because we have all the hype. I mean, at this point, it's just all the hype. We don't really know how things are gonna evolve from going into the year, but the release of this open source project, OpenClaw, which has a huge momentum at the moment, meaning that all right, it started late last year. I think it was November. It changed name a couple of times, and now in a couple of actually just a couple of months, or at least at most 3 months, we have Jensen Huang, the guy from NVIDIA, saying this is a pivotal moment, an inflection point in which we are going to use on our own computers this thing, which is just like a wrapper around an LLM and a bunch of other AI tools, which are, still from OpenAI, is still from Anthropic, Claude, and all of that. but it makes it so that you allow access to your own computer, and you, through these sort of connectors, through this protocol that they develop, meaning that it is just a way of connecting the LLMs and the AIs to applications. So with that, you can send an email, or turn on the lights on your smart house, or just send messages, or summarize the current news, and maybe vibe code an application based on that. So in that regard, it is probably, it is still in its infancy, but nonetheless, it's making the rounds and everything. Everyone's talking about that.
Yeah, I don't want to be. I guess historically, I've been kind of down on AI in general, and the first reason for that is because it's not AI. Artificial intelligence. It's like a large language model, machine learning. It's not, that's why everyone talks about AGI, artificial general intelligence. That's what we used to call AI before the AI era actually began. So when I see people like just, using Grok or ChatGPT, and they're just asking it questions, and it's giving them wrong answers or links to, supporting material that doesn't exist.
Right.
I'm going like, and then some people tell me, yeah, but if you give it the right context, it'll give you the answers you want. And I'm like, well, I can write my own piece of software that tells me what I want to hear. Like, is it really actually thinking? Is it really, useful? So, but agentic AI, like, I can kind of see how that would be definitely a much more of a killer app,
Yeah.
if it was done well, and if it was not, sucking up all the world's electricity and water, and messing up people's neighborhoods. And if we find some preferably more efficient way of doing all that computation and that sort of thing. And maybe I don't know if I want AI linked to my home computer and have my desktop computer, the fan spinning at maximum and sucking up even more electricity, because my electric bill is high enough.
Yeah, it's impressive. They use the training of these models is, the requirements are huge. You had a video about the data centers. They are huge. They are going, only getting bigger, as time passes. It's the new gold rush. Everyone wants a piece of this. At the same time, we only have actually not a couple, but just a few players. The number of actual LLMs out there for you. I mean, you can say that it is in the ranges of maybe 10, perhaps even less than that. But after the dust settles on this, probably we'll have just very few models out there, or AIs that will, be alive at the end of all of this.
Well, one of the interesting little news items that I came across recently was, in fact, I think it was just yesterday or the day before, Meta announced that they're buying out a company called Manus, MANUS. And the story of this company is kind of interesting because, you hear about, like, it's all Grok and ChatGPT and Anthropic and, Claude, and, you don't hear so much about like DeepSeek and Eastern AIs, so to speak. So anyway, this company Manus, they're into agentic AI, and their service, you can do stuff like, it'll do coding for you. It will do like sifting through data and generating reports. And apparently it actually does a very good job of this, and other types of that type of agentic stuff. And the company began just about 1 year ago, and they had 75 million in venture capital funding. And fast forward 8 months to just this past December, and they announced, we've got $100 million a year of annual recurring revenue. In other words, people probably paying for subscriptions and stuff.
Yeah.
At that time, they were valued at $500 million. And like literally days later, Meta comes out and goes, yeah, we're buying this company that's making $100 million a year. We're buying them for $2 billion.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's insane, right?
I'm going like, I'm not sure your math adds up there.
No.
Right. But, and I know, people argue and they say, yeah, Scottie, but it's like all they're creating substantial value and blah blah blah. In and of itself, if that was a standalone thing, I might agree. But like when you look at like the circular funding, in fact, Nvidia even came out. I think it was Nvidia. They came out and they said, "Yeah, we're doing one of these circular funding things, and yeah, we realize that's a bit crazy, so we're not going to do that anymore. But we're just going to do one last round." And it was like, so they know that this doesn't make sense. That this is like
Yeah.
just people passing money around and stoking the hype. But having said all that, like apparently what Manus is doing now, Meta, works and is good. So, like, is that what we're going to see more of in the future?
Well, it's interesting about Facebook having, Facebook has been a little bit good on the acquisitions. It acquired WhatsApp, it acquired, of course, Instagram back in the day. Of course, had a bunch of failures, right?
Yeah.
But I think this is just another example of them trying to keep up. Because the thing is that, interestingly enough, the moment they are moving with towards AI, they are leaving behind VR, right? Remember
Yeah.
Meta Horizon
Oh, VR
worlds?
was huge. It's the future, virtual worlds, and
They threw billions at that, billions. Like some people say 80 plus, some people say 50 plus billions at billion at that. And now they are shutting down Horizon Worlds or whatever it's called. And it's a huge flop. And I mean, how do you fund all of that? I mean, I guess it made sense back in the day, but now it's the paradigm kind of shifted a little bit, not a little bit, hugely, I will say. And now we're all the hype around AI. By the way, have you tried Meta's AI? I haven't, but from what I've heard, it is not very good at all. So they are trying to keep up with, Claude and OpenAI and Gemini from Google and all of that. So I don't know if it's going to work, perhaps, but at the same time, I mean, they think that by throwing millions at this, they will have a fighting chance. Perhaps they will,
yeah.
but it's going to be real tough. It's just going to, in my opinion, some few big players will remain. But I
But
don't know.
you also have the problem of like when a giant, big tech company like Meta buys a small startup, they very often like suffocate them to death by, micromanaging, and it's like the company on its own when it's small is great.
Yeah,
And then it gets taken over and they're like, no, do this, do that, and the whole thing just kind of falls apart. And
yeah, yeah.
but
Happens very often.
but the other interesting thing about this Manus company, I thought, was that they're using Anthropic and Alibaba's AI. And the company was in Singapore and had apparently predominantly the Chinese CEO and Chinese higher ups anyway. And so they
Probably,
that doesn't surprise me actually, because half of the world's patents come from
yeah,
Chinese researchers, not the
way
West.
ahead.
So
They are way ahead.
I think they're probably I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Meta, and maybe Meta will
Well,
create the everything app, and we'll all love it. But
I mean, people are trying to do exactly that, right? Just to leverage, because not too long ago, people were just scratching their heads saying, all right, so where is this going? This AI cannot just be, me asking questions for a paper or a schoolwork or something like that, right? I mean, in a way, you can say that it is saving some time, of course, and you are being more productive in that way, because that is another topic, which is how people are up to today are using AI, and it is just to, instead of freeing yourself from the shores, it's just making everything more intense, and now you are more productive, which is, I'm not sure if that was the original intention, at least on paper, on, oh, I want to use the AI so that I can finish earlier and just go on about my day. apparently that is not the case. But yeah, going back, I was interested. It was interesting that if it had a Chinese component, let's see how. Of course, going into America and having this war. Let's call it, at least on the tech side, with China. So how things are going to pan out, I'm not really sure, but at the same time, it's interesting. But it kind of makes sense because what you're saying is the real advancements in at least in the scientific part of AI, we need to look at China for that because most of the patents and most of the things that are being implemented are coming from studies and research that some Chinese universities and firms and companies are doing. So, but most of us in the West, we don't really see that, right?
Yeah, but you also look at that simple fact that half of the world's patents in AI are coming from China, and it's kind of like high level research. But the AIs that you hear about, no matter what country you're in, are all the mostly American AIs, and of course they're pushing them, and they've got this financial mumbo jumbo going. It's almost like they're using AI and artificially hyping it up, to jack up the economy and go like, no, we're still top dog, or everything's fine, the dollar's strong, and like, it's not really because it's that great. Because even Microsoft, which has been touting, AI in Windows 11 for like several years now, they recently just came out and said, yeah, we're kind of canceling that. We're going to work on making Windows 11 like not suck. And you're going like, okay, but so
That suck.
I find it very interesting. Like, I don't know if I would ever read the Chinese papers that are published on AI, because I kind of doubt I would understand much of it, because gets pretty hairy sometimes
Yeah.
with like the language models and how
Yeah.
the probabilities and how that how it all works. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's another interesting aspect to Agentic AI, and it was about MIT published about a year ago, I think. There were 4 studies, and the studies had some pretty interesting conclusions. So one of them was that you can't just make an AI. You can't just make an AI agent that does stuff, because there are like 8 billion people in the world. And so
Yeah.
that agent has to be able to communicate or work together with all those humans, right? So what they found is that if they have an AI agent that's very extroverted, that might work really well in, say, Latin American countries.
Yeah.
But if you go to like East Asia, they hate it. It doesn't work for them. Like, it's not productive. They can't work with it. The same thing with like men versus women. Like, women prefer, men want an AI that's like, more
To the point.
agreeable, to the point, and like assertive, and like women
Yeah.
want one that's more, I think the term they used was neurotic, but that doesn't mean what it sounds like.
Let's call it chatty.
Chatty. They
Yeah.
would like, they want a chatty. But I mean, it's really interesting because you think about it and you go, right, like, think of every person you've ever worked with in all of your different jobs, right? How well did you work with those people? In most cases, most people would say, well, yeah, I had a few good coworkers, a few, some of them became good friends, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. But it's like, so now try to imagine making an AI that like 3 billion people are going to use, and it has to work perfectly with all of them,
Yeah.
like with all their quirks, and and they already have data showing that say like 2 humans work together to generate a text, like a report. If you take a human and you pair it with an AI agent, okay, that works just as well as 2 humans working together. But for like something like image generation, 2 humans working together is more efficient than if you have human and AI. So even just the specific task that it's performing can change how well it actually works. And you're going like, how are y'all going to do this?
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah, I can think of a couple of things about this. Is if it can adjust, adapt, meaning that if you use it long enough, let's say on an LLM, you're talking with Grok. I mean, how hard it is to Grok learning how you want your responses, Grok learning that you are a quieter person or you're a chatty person, and then he will, or it will adjust the responses, the interaction, how often, how long the text of the response should be.
it's
This
just
personality.
it's always like 17 pages long for you say like, is the sky blue? And then it gives you like a 17-page bullet point list, and like
Yeah.
drives me crazy.
Of course, I mean you have to instruct this guy that I want it on in under 3 paragraphs, and if it's less, it's even better. But
But if
yeah,
it,
I mean, I totally understand that the tone, the personality, how bright or how quiet could be. That those things, in my estimation, should be easy, right? I mean, by default, is this person coming, or are we am I working with someone from Latin America or Europe? So there are certain things that can be done, but it's interesting. The study is pretty interesting.
yeah, and it yeah, I don't know. It's like on the one hand, I think maybe it is possible. On the other, it's like I feel like they bit off way more than they can chew,
Yeah.
and with all the other problems, like the funding, the data centers, the energy, the water, it's like it's all gonna the bubble's gonna burst, and when it does, then we may see some interesting things. But I expect most of those interesting things to come out of more research heavy countries, let's say, because I tend not to trust the current AI stars like Sam Altman, and they're more like rock stars or something than. That's just
Yeah.
me.
Well, no, it's not just you. I mean, you can see that you don't really learn that much from people in East Asia, for instance, that are doing some other models, but in the Western world, these people need to also hype up things. They need to attract investors and constantly be on the spotlight, and in a way it drives adoption, right? I mean, they want, even if it's at a loss at the moment, they want people just to get hooked on this and have some sort of a dependency. You can clearly see that some of the things that the AI is doing right now, even if it's not installing this program and instructing the AI just to answer your emails for you or whatever, even if it's just for some questions and answers, it could be pretty impressive, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's no denying that. But at the same time, I mean, should we trust? I mean, going back to the even the browser wars or the search engine wars, will you trust the people at Google? I mean, or Facebook when social media came along? I mean, no long ago, or no long after the social media thing started to gain traction, we saw something from Mark Zuckerberg. Oh, these people, so dumb. They trusted me with their data. Well, it's pretty much the same thing. Now we are trusting these people not only with our data while surfing the interwebs. Now we are trusting them with our file system, meaning that with the files on our computer and the actual, they will read each and every one of our emails, then, and they will control things on our house, this whole internet of things. They will have access to everything. So it is sort of, in comparison, having social media and giving Facebook that you were born on such and such day, it seems like baby, it's
Yeah.
compared to what the access that we're giving this new thing right now.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, I think that's probably my biggest issue with it all, is that like if they had come out with some kind of AI that did X, Y, and Z and it was awesome, and they were making money off it slowly but surely, I'd be like, okay, like that's pretty cool, you know. If someone comes out with some kind of agentic thing like this Manus, some other company, whatever, Meta, who, it doesn't matter, and they come out with something and it actually makes people's lives better and more convenient, and of course they're going to be sucking up as much data as they can because they can't help themselves. That's just what they all do. But if they can do that and it actually is profitable and it's actually useful, you know, and if that had happened in the beginning, then I'd be like, oh, okay, like this AI is great. But like the way it all started and with all the crazy hype and it's like, so I guess you could say I'm kind of biased against AI. I
Against it
suppose.
a little bit. I mean, we should be skeptical to say the least, no? I mean,
Yeah.
I
Well, but
mean,
I
why?
want it to do something cool. Like I'm waiting for it to do something cool, but I haven't seen the thing that really makes me go, wow, like
Right,
that's really neat. Like
right. Well,
my wife uses it for some really cool things. Like she can make like she's a language teacher and linguist, and she makes course material, and like it's her ideas, but she uses the different types of AI to speed up the generation of content, like a slideshow, an image, you know, to organize and process stuff. But the actual direction of the course and the way that the people are learning is customized by her. And I'm going like, oh, that's pretty smart. I like
right,
that.
right.
But I haven't found in my own life like any way to use it. Like I'm not going to say, hey, write me some code, because I don't trust it. I'll go over it line by line, and
Yeah.
I rather just write it myself, because like,
Well, I guess if there is some sort of recurrent and tedious work, perhaps it can work well with that. Oh, I have to download these files and create a report. If I think of an accountant, if I think of someone that is every month doing the same thing, I mean, obviously, it is super appealing. And back to this open cloud thing, which is taking, the internet by storm right now. I mean, people are imagining, oh my God, I have a task that every month consumes around 3 days from my time or whatever, and with this thing, I can just instruct it to do something, and it will do it overnight. And the next day, I'll have my reports, and I'll have paid my bills. I have, all sort of manual work just down to minutes. So it can be really, really appealing. I mean, I'm with you. I'm not really into allowing AI because I'm super skeptical at the moment, in the sense of not, I'm not going to rely on that thing, until dust settles a little bit.
yeah,
But I can actually see people that do menial work, in the sense of it's the same thing over and over, and having in the command line, which means just typing the instructions, and they have to be very strict, or they have to be very specific on what you are typing in. It is not preventing them from adopting this thing, right? I mean, they're working their way through. They are, because the promise is so appealing that they will go and install something from a command line that it is the realm of nerdy people like us, and right. And now the goal they have in mind is, I want this thing to do this report for me, and they will get there.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
have actually used AI for a few things. Like I like kind of like scan all this research material, summarize this, do this, and like I just wasn't impressed with it. Like it gave me a bunch of results, and I checked all the results. It gave me links to papers, and I clicked and read all the papers, in some cases the papers didn't exist, the link was fake. In other cases it was to a different article. You know, it was like,
Yeah.
there were so many instances where it's like, this thing isn't even doing what it's supposed to do, what it's telling me it's doing, that
Yeah.
I kind of went like, okay, we're just not really there yet. But
No, no,
yeah, there,
hallucinations are real.
and there are so many of them, as you said earlier. Like, I mean, there's so much different AI stuff, and like everybody has jumped on the bandwagon. And like, I also hesitate to use a lot of the AI tools, because it's like we're in the middle of this kind of like giant bubble, or so it seems to me. And I think, as you said earlier as well, I think that bubble's going to pop. And when it does, it's going to be like after the whole, you know, the .com bubble thing. And like a lot of
Yeah.
these smaller companies are going to go belly up. And I don't really want to rely on something that's going to like collapse or be gobbled up by something else, or
Yeah,
so
we're in the infancy of all of this, meaning that, all right, so there will be a plethora of choices at the moment. But as you were saying, I mean, why should every company survive, right? There were a bunch of search engines back in the day. Remember Excite, or remember some
oh
of
yeah,
the ones? Yeah, I used it all day.
Alta
But they,
Vista, and oh
Alta
yeah,
Vista, all defunct. They are all
yeah,
gone now. They are a ghost in the in the in some server in somewhere lost in from memory. That means we'll see the same thing, right? And it was a bubble. The search engine thing was a bubble because Alta Vista and Excite, they received millions in funding. They tried to compete with Google, or at least they were on the same level at some point. Then, eventually the market moved, and maybe people to start. The thing with Google was that they were having this page rank algorithm, which was just a way of capturing what was written on a website, and then trying to categorize and have a ranking of the pages based on what you were typing in. It's going to be sort of the same thing. I'm thinking that the one that builds or integrates better with this killer app, it's going to have the better chances of surviving,
yeah.
right? I don't know.
Yeah, that's actually that's kind of a good comparison there, because it's like, when you think about the search engine thing, why did Google survive? Well, it's DARPA funded too.
Yeah.
That might have had something to do with it, maybe.
It's always good to have DARPA on your side.
But yeah, that's a good point. So that's what I'm waiting for. You know, is 2026 the year of agentic AI? I guess we'll find out. But
Yeah. Apple is not doing any better. I mean, you mentioned Facebook, but the other one, because Facebook doesn't really have a good AI, but Apple Intelligence was also a bust. I mean, you have your Samsung phone as well. That it wasn't there.
yeah,
The hype. I mean, it was incredible. As with Samsung, Apple had also some hype around Apple Intelligence. They thought they were clever because they had Siri already, and they had like the name and the pieces, all the branding, but then it was a complete bust because the promise was exactly the same as with your Samsung phone. Oh, Siri, just go in, buy a burger and have it delivered to my home or whatever, but it didn't happen at all. And now they had to partner. That's one of the things that I do not really understand is how this trillion-dollar company doesn't really come up with its own very cool version of an AI, because the papers are out, the engineers are there in the sense of they have very intelligent people, and they didn't. Same with Amazon. Amazon has all the money in the world, all the access to resources, AWS, these huge data centers already, and then they didn't come with Alexa in the same way as, I don't know, maybe OpenAI came up with ChatGPT.
yeah,
They had all that is why I'm thinking, why didn't those companies succeed and in some cases they didn't even try, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I read some of them. I mean, I think I had read about some of the stuff like Amazon was trying to work on, and Apple as well, but it just never got anywhere.
Yeah,
But like, why not? Like, what's the Apple even went to like, yeah, hey Google, can we have Gemini on iPhones?
yeah,
Like, huh?
yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah, there's a lot of strange stuff.
A lot of strange stuff.
All those
Also,
billions and
I mean, what are you gonna do with that? I mean, shouldn't you have, like, I don't know, 5,000 people on R&D, research and development, for this sort of thing? I don't know. But the ones that are actually, doing something is the Department of Defense or Department of War and the U.S. saying, all right, yeah, we'll have who was it? OpenAI, right? They become actually just a contractor, and at this point, they are an intelligence contractor in a way, as Palantir and these other people,
Mhm.
in the sense that, yeah, we want to use the LLMs, and we want to help with the intelligence. I mean, some aspect of the data collection, some aspect of automation, some aspect of the work that the DoD is performing, and we just signed the deal with them, and then they will come, and Sam Altman announced all of that. Evidently, the guy is very well connected. They had this partnership with Donald Trump and Larry Ellison from Oracle, and now they are going deep into the embedding itself into the U.S. government. And you have to ask, what are they going to do with all of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, that's one of my big questions, because I'm like, what is the like the U.S. government gonna do? The Pentagon, like, what are you using it for?
Yeah.
I mean, because if what you're getting is, I mean, come on, even if it's better than like what you and I would get if we're paying for it, it's like, look at how the models have evolved over the years. Like, it's not like the next step or two above what we get is really that awesome, unless there's something we all don't know about.
Mhm.
But
Yeah. I mean, could there be that these tech companies have something tailored to the intelligence community, to the defense community, in the sense of, it is very, very tailored to their needs, and it is not publicly available, and it is something that they requested.
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, the application is, applying new technology to war is a very well documented thing. The internet came along as something like that.
yeah,
In the same, I mean, why shouldn't this also be the case, right? So it is super interesting just to think, maybe what we are seeing is just a fraction of the actual capabilities, and there is some more advanced uses that we don't know about, but they are being used by the military or by the intelligence agencies or whatever. Just playing with that idea, it's kind of interesting, because, oh, what are they doing? But at the same time, it freaks me out, in a sense, because oh my God, what are they doing this? Why are they doing this at this point?
yeah. Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, it's gonna be super interesting 2026. I mean, interesting in the sense that it could be creepy, very much so, right?
So I guess in answer to our question, is 2026 the year of agentic AI? Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know. I'm saying, yeah, it's gonna happen. I mean, this is the year it's gonna happen. I mean, I'm not good at predictions or whatever, but just I think the writing is on the wall, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good thing, right? because probably the first thing that everyone is saying about this agentic installing on your computer things is don't do it just yet. There are security issues and privacy issues, but again, people with the promise, the hype, they are doing it anyway. So probably what we'll see is a lot of epic failure type of compilation videos on how things went wrong with giving access to this AI to your computer. At the same time, I don't think it's not going to stop. This is going to be more than well received by a lot of people.
Yeah. I guess I'm not entirely convinced about the whole agentic AI thing, like, because I see that it would be kind of hard to do, and there's other world events going on that might prevent it. But I do actually have this strange kind of hunch that we're going to see something surprising from AI this year. Like maybe not necessarily agentic AI, possibly some kind of like the kind of killer app or something, or some use of it that we haven't seen before, because I just don't see how it can keep going as it's been going, because it's like it makes so little sense to me economically, socially, blah, blah, in every way. It's like and yet it's so popular, and yet they for years they've been promising this great thing that's coming. Instead of developing the great thing and releasing it, it's like this eternal promise of the super cool thing that's coming. Just 6 more months, but I think maybe someone not named Sam Altman or Meta or whatever may actually come up with something pretty cool.
It's been the year of the killer app since forever, right? This technology that surprises and delights us, right, in a way that oh my God, now I feel that we are in the future. I don't know, perhaps in a way you tend to think, well, is innovation also should it come from big corporations, where they are, even if they are tech companies, they do tend to move slower. I mean, they do tend to also move faster if they want by acquiring companies, right? And then they will just absorb them, and the initial proposition will persist for a while, or the value proposition from these acquired companies will remain there appealing. So perhaps we can just rename this year as the maybe year of the killer app. The maybe year. Once more.
The maybe year of the killer app, or maybe agentic AI, or something like it.
Or something more sinister.
In short, in the year 2026, something is going to happen.
That's a very good prediction. I can get behind that. Absolutely.
But it's so hard too, because there's so much nonsense. There's so much like hype around everything, like just to figure out like what's going on and what's coming next. And
it's moving fast now. So we don't know. Again, what this guy did was just an application that's sort of an orchestrator, right? With building on top of things that we're developing already. So it is not that it's coming out of the blue, right? They have what is called this MCP, which is just a protocol to connect. The AI can connect to applications, right? That wasn't there. It's been there for a couple of years at most, or 1 year, something like that. So without that, we couldn't have this agentic on your computer type of application. So they are, building the building blocks are, starting to be there, and it's just a matter of someone, hitting on the convenience and affordability and coolness as well. And that, it's a mixture of things that need to be there prior, and then we can see that the results are amazing. But if you look at the trail, of events, it kind of makes sense that we are here right now at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
I guess so.
So, you got anything else?
No,
add?
that's it. The year of the maybe cool app. I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna, I'll remember this throughout the year, and let's see if that prediction came true or not.
The maybe cool killer app.
Yeah.
The maybe cool killer agentic app. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it then for this show. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Do you want more? Do you want less? Like, oh God, please make it stop.
Yeah.
And also, we intended this to be kind of a live show. So, like, people can ask questions. We can talk about stuff. We can interact. So let us know in the comments below if you'd like that as well, or we can just pre-record them and whatever.
Yeah.
That's it. Over and out.
See you, everyone.
Thanks for watching.